Hey, what up, everybody? I am Lou, and I actually want to talk to y'all today about can you become a programmer without a college degree? So, I think those of y'all that have been programming for a while, whether you have a college degree or not, probably know the answer already, right? I don't think I need to explain to y'all. There's a lot of newcomers that are coming on, and they want to get their foot into programming. But there's still this notion to certain people, because I've talked to certain people, where it almost feels like they're not legit. They're not top quality programmers, you want to say, per se, if they don't get that college degree. Because they don't know about these algorithms, right? That, they may, you may learn through college, taking a CS course. Um, but I think those of y'all that have been programming long enough, and I mean as a career, let's say if those of y'all that have been programming 4 or 5 years, for example, whether you're doing front end, even back end, you don't deal so much with all of these algorithms. I mean, I'm not saying there's not a need for it, and I'm not saying that there are not these cases where it's needed. But if you're a front end developer, let's say you're using React, um, you're building some UIs, you're gonna have some forms, maybe a dashboard, table grid. You're dealing with all of that. At the end of the day, you don't need to know about the different types of algorithms that it just doesn't make sense. I mean, you can learn it, but it doesn't mean you're not necessarily going to use it. I guess that's the point I'm trying to say, right? You're not going to use it, man. You're not really going to use it. Um, I don't know. It's one of those deals where I do feel that some people think that there's people that are actually learning to program today, and they're actually doing a pretty decent job. I feel like like they have no college degree, but they're learning. They're learning because they're studying on their own. They're watching YouTube videos. They're taking some online courses, whatever it may be. Like they're going down the right path, but then I feel like they get discouraged at one point. They get to the point where they feel like, what, I'm not legit. I'm not a legit programmer. Like I'm not elite. I'm not good. I'm just not that great. Just more so because I have no college degree, right? Compared to somebody else that does. And then you put your own self down, man. Like that's the bad thing about it, right? Like they put their own self down, which is not necessarily right, because you don't need a college degree to be a good programmer. There's things that you may not know up front that maybe somebody who went to college may know, like certain algorithms that, I mean, make sense, right? They were taught that, so they know it. But as somebody who's new, they may not know that, and that's fine, right? As you grow, as you continue your paths of learning, uh, you will get exposed to that, and you will eventually, get familiar with that, which is the process of learning, right? Um, Ultimately, what I'm trying to say to tell people is like, if you didn't go to college, right? Maybe because you didn't have the funds, you didn't have any parents to give you money to send you to college. You just didn't know what you wanted to do. You didn't go to college. You have no desire to go to college. I mean, whatever the reason may be, um, you can still get in the industry. You still can do something. You could learn on your own, continue your progress of learning, by doing projects, right? That's the key thing, right? You gotta get your hands dirty. You gotta get in, like quit doing these tutorials, like get your hands in, start building shit. Um, that's how you're gonna learn, my opinion. Um, and you'll continue to grow, and as you continue to grow, eventually, you may start dabbling into learning how certain algorithms work when you do, when you do need to learn it, right? When the time comes to learn it. I just don't want people to get discouraged to feel like, oh man, oh me, like I didn't go to college, I didn't have the ability or I wasn't in a position to go, or I messed up, I slacked off, I didn't go, and then now that you're trying to learn and trying to do something, and you are learning and you are doing something, but you still keep beating yourself up because now you feel like, well, I'm not that good, like other people are better because they went to college, they got to learn more. They got to learn about algorithm. They got to learn about certain other aspects that you just, you didn't learn initially. But that's fine, right? What I'm trying to say, like, who cares, right? They learn certain things, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But you can still continue your path. You can still continue to learn, continue to build shit, learn. Again, I'm gonna keep saying it: build shit, build shit. That's how you learn. Keep building shit, and as you keep learning, you start to grow, and then eventually you start learning these other aspects that you know um, these people that went to college actually learn. Some of it may comes through your own, just you having to learn it, because a certain project may require it. Other times may be more so you just curious, right? At a point where you got a lot of knowledge, you become very curious, like, oh, I'm interested in that, so let me dabble into that and see what's up. Um, I'm just not a fan. Like I'm on the side. Like I'm a big fan of people that are trying and that are actually making progress. Even though it may be slow progress, but they're making progress. But it sucks when I see that they kind of start, they put their own self down because they feel they're not as good. And part of it not even them. Like part of it, I think it is them. At the end of the day, it is them, right? Like, but I do see a lot of people that are like, no, like somebody with a CS degree is better. All right, let's just assume that they are better at the moment. It doesn't mean that somebody who's self-taught that doesn't have a college degree cannot become better, because they can. There are some people that don't continue to learn, don't continue to grow. They learn something at one point and then they stop, and eventually if you have a learning mindset, you continue to learn, you'll continue to grow, and eventually you will learn more about more, than the other individual. So I mean, you can, man. I don't know, man. I hate it whenever people put themselves down, and then it does suck because we live in a world where people are going to be quick to put you down as well, tell you you're not as good. You're never going to be as good with somebody with a CS degree. Um, but that's fine, right? Like I could tell you, right. So let me tell you. I'll share my story with y'all. Let me find something right quick. I'm trying to find something on my phone. I should have done this before I started recording. Um, so let's see. Cool. Okay, so I should be good, I think. Um, all right, so the way I got into programming, make sure the mic's set right. So just kind of share with y'all the way I got into programming was I actually started off learning databases. All right, so I so the way um, before let me start back some, right. So before I even started learning anything related to database programming, etc., I worked in a warehouse. Okay, so I have always been somewhat tech savvy back in my early years, late teens, early 20s. I was able, I was always tinkering with my computer, right? Adding a GPU, um, you know, adding RAM. I understood like from a hardware standpoint how things worked. CPU, GPU. Now I wouldn't call myself being very well educated, but I was educated enough where I knew about that like more than the average person by all means. Um, and it wasn't until probably my mid 20s where I was helping out with this project, but more from a process standpoint. Like I had knowledge in the process. I kind of, I put together a lot of the documentations. So I was kind of helping in that project, and I saw one of the guys that were working on the project, because I was working with the IT department. They were going to build the system, so they needed my input in how all the processes interacted. Like the process flow, all the processes, right, from an operation standpoint. So I was kind of sharing that knowledge with them. Um, I noticed that one of the requests eventually what ended up happening is that project got put on hold. They ended up purchasing this other system, this out of the box system, right? That instead of building a system from scratch, they end up purchasing a system. And then as they purchased the system, that's kind of where we became how to get familiar with the system. But then there were some like technical requests, like SQL queries. That system had the ability where you could write custom SQL, in order to generate some of the reports. One of the guys that were working there, he was actually a C# developer. He got asked like, "Hey, can you help out with the project? We need to build these custom reports, and it's going to require building some SQL queries to make it work." I was very interested. I was like, "Dude, like, what you doing?" Like, I would just kind of pick asking questions like a little kid. What's that? What are you doing? What's that for? What tool is that? Where you get that software? Again, I was just very curious like a little kid, asking a lot of questions. And then from that day on forward, when I went home, I was so interested in it. And in this case, it was a SQL Server database. So I went and started Googling SQL Server. Like, what is it? What is a query? Or how do just started, researching all that crap. And next thing you know it, 2 weeks later, this is me spending hours. Again, I was working 10 hours a day, around that range, 10 hours a day. For the next 2 weeks, I probably spent easy between 6 to 8 hours every day, even on weekends, just learning SQL. Right, I even installed the SQL Server Express on my laptop. It was a piece of shit laptop, but it was just enough resource to handle it. And I was just tinkering around again, playing with the what is it, the eventual Adventure Works database, putting some queries together and so on. Um, and again, that's what I did, and I became. I was not an expert, not even close to an expert, but I became knowledge enough in those 2 weeks where I knew the basics of select, from, where, even joins. Even became by that time familiar with subqueries, and so whenever he got a request for another report, like, hey, while you work on this other report, do you mind if I take care of this report? Like, I would like to just take a stab at it. He was like, sure. Like, he had no desire to write query. Again, he's a C# developer. I mean, put it this way, most developers are not really interested on when it comes to writing database queries. Not that I have seen. Most people that are like true developers that have been developing, applications for some years, they're not trying to write any SQL queries. I mean, or any of that. They do it when they have to. They're not trying to though. That's the thing about it. Um, Either way, so he was like on board, like, yeah, you go ahead, you do it, man. Like, take it off my plate, and I did. And it probably took me about a week. I put something together. And here's the thing, my query was so messy, like it was so jacked up. It really was when I look back at it, but it did the job. At the end of the day, the business, they weren't looking at the query saying, hey, your query, how clean, how efficient it is. Is it, from a performance stand, like they could care less. All they cared was like, hey, it works, right? I mean, it gets the job done. That's what they cared about, and they did. And from that point on, they're like, dude, you know how to write query? Like, nobody knew that. Like, because I didn't tell nobody. I just did. So, here is my other piece of advice to a lot of people. People that are wanna get their foot in the door, people that wanna like, well, how do I get that opportunity? Sometimes you just have to take the opportunity. Like, you have to make your own opportunity. I'm gonna keep in mind, nobody asked me to go learn SQL. Nobody asked me, hey, are you interested to learn? Would you be interested on doing something? Like, nobody told me shit. What I did on my own time after hours that nobody knew about this, I went and started learning. As I started learning, I started just kind of playing around, doing it. That's why I installed a database on my laptop and just started querying that because I'm very hands on. I need to do it. And that's what I did. And eventually I knew just enough. And then as I built that first report, management found out. They're like, oh, man, like management from IT. And they're like, I didn't know you know how to do that. They're like, well, shit, if you know how to do it, can you do these other reports then? And I was like, sure. Like, I was excited, right? And eventually, what happened? The IT department asked me if I'd be willing to come work for them. So keep in mind, I worked in warehousing, right? When I say warehousing, I'm talking about I used to ride forklifts, pack boxes, shrink wrap pallets. I was a warehouse lead. Eventually, what I end up doing from a warehouse lead, I end up again making my own opportunity. I started creating documents, process flows, and as I did that opened up this new opportunity. But I was still in operations, like side. Like I was, I sat out there, had a desk out there in the warehouse, So as processes, new processes, needed to be created, I designed these processes and whatever. But again, so I went from driving a forklift, wrapping pallets, doing that kind of stuff, to ultimately writing documentation, creating processes. But I was still in operations. Then I went from there to being asked from IT if I'd be willing to come work for IT. And I can't remember what title it was, but pretty much I was part of like their systems, whatever. Again, I can't remember the title, but either way, I was part of IT. I was excited, like, dude, like, So those of y'all who are wondering how do you get yourself like how do you get hired in the IT field? Sometimes you gotta make your own opportunities, man. Sometimes you gotta have to go do it. Like, don't wait till somebody tell you to do it. If where you work out today, you gotta keep in mind, I worked in the warehouse, so I don't know where y'all work at, what jobs you're doing, what roles. But if you're in the same boat as me, go learn it and go ask if you have to. Like just the way I did, like, hey, let me do it. And the worst they could say is no. Who cares? They say no. All right, they say no. At least you learn. You learn something new. I mean, that's what I did. But assuming that they don't say no, they say yes, like the way I got told, yeah, go ahead. And again, I got told go ahead because that guy did not want to do it. So that worked in my favor. And when I did it, and I knocked it out the park. And then from that point on, manager was like, dude, well, come work for IT. And I did. And from there, just keep learning and learning. And that's how I got myself into IT. That was my first, like, me learning some kind of syntax, which was, SQL. Again, SQL not a programming language, it's a database language, but that helped me out a lot because I think I probably did SQL for like 2-3 years until eventually I end up learning Python. And in those 2-3 years, I became even better in SQL. Right then, I started going into creating tables, creating procedures, creating views, functions, things of that nature. Right, so I got more familiar with all of that data types, variables, how to do like cursors. Just again, I just got more familiar. But the thing that helped me out a lot, I feel like, is because I got familiar with data types and things of that nature in SQL. Once I decided to learn Python, it became very easy, man. Very, very easy. And again, it became easy because I already had some knowledge in that area. If I had zero knowledge if I have no idea what the hell data type is, dude, that's tough for somebody that's new. But I was able to learn slowly, little by little bit, throughout those 2-3 years from a database standpoint. And then of course once I went to learning programming language like Python, became a lot easier. And then eventually from there you start learning new stuff, right? From there I start learning new frameworks, Qt framework, which is for UI desktop development. I got familiar with that. Then I started getting familiar with Flask and Django to do web development. And then of course, like anything, when once I started getting into web, I got into JavaScript. So I started learning JavaScript. Um, from JavaScript, started learning frameworks, React, Vue, and so on. Then eventually start learning other languages, which C# was another language, and Golang that I started learning as well. Again, I wouldn't not an expert in the language, but I started dabbling into that, and it makes sense, or in the languages. But my prime language, even to the day, is Python. Python without a doubt, because I do a lot of back end work. So I'm more of I like doing back end type projects, and because of that, Python has always been my go-to language. I became very familiar with it throughout the years. For the stuff that I do, more than powerful enough to handle it and to do what it needs to do. So that's the reason. But again, no college degree, because I have none at all. I wouldn't even consider myself to be even a good student. I'm like a D, C minus student. I literally graduated high school. I believe it was like a C minus or so. And the only freaking reason I even graduated high school was because I was failing the class and I wasn't going to graduate. And then I noticed this other student, which was kind of like she was like a straight A student, but something happened where she missed that class many times. Again, I don't know if she has kind of issues or what was going on, but she just didn't. She missed a lot. She missed a lot where she wasn't gonna fail that class. I don't think she was gonna fail, like not graduate, but it was gonna probably, I'm pretty sure, hurt her GPA. And when you're going to college, all that stuff matters. I guess, I don't know. I didn't go to college. Or let me phrase it, I did go to college, but I'll tell that another story. I never finished college, and I didn't go right after high school either. I actually went twice and dropped out of college twice. That's another story, though. I'll tell you that another day. And then, which is why, because I realized college was not for me, which is why I ended up dropping. Again, I should have learned the first time, but I went back again. Either way, and I heard the teacher talking to her, and I was like, okay, so you're gonna give her a chance, give her work to make up to be able to pass, but you're not gonna give me a chance, because she wouldn't give me a chance. She's like, nope, you're failing. It is what it is. And so when I brought it up to her, like, dude, hell no, you giving her a chance? Like, where's my chance? Like, give me some work. I'll go do it, and because I mean, I didn't want to fail and take, you know, take my, take it again, right? So she did, and I was able to get just enough to pass. I literally got like a 70 in that class, and I passed, and that was just enough for me to graduate. So again, I'm not the smartest guy. I mean, most of the time when I meet with certain friends or even certain family members, look around the table, everybody there has college degrees. I'm the only motherfucker there that doesn't have a college degree. Just what it seems like especially when I meet with my wife's side of the family, they all have a college degree. My wife has a college. Her brothers have a college degree. Their wife has a college degree. Their friends, like it pretty much seems like everybody in the room has college degrees. I'm the only one that doesn't. But I can tell you right now, like I'm doing very good financially. I'm doing shit that I want to do. I mean, I'm doing very again. So another thing, I own my own business. I have right now 3 people working for me, and with me having my own business, and we do a lot of software development, data integration, that kind of stuff. It's about to be 3 years since I started my business, and again, I don't have a freaking college degree. Like, you don't need one. When you learn how to program, you learn how to do stuff, get shit done, build relationships, have network, do all of that. Again, college degree doesn't matter, man. Do all of that, And then you can start your own business. You can do freelancing if you want, right? You don't need to have a little team like the way I do. But if you don't want to do freelancing, by all means, you can make real good money doing that. And you don't need a college degree because they're not going to ask you when you go try to get a new opportunity with a client. They're not going to ask you, so what college did you go to? Because it doesn't matter. All they care that you could build what they want you to build for them, right? At the end of the day, that's what matters. Um, and something again, I just want to share with y'all right quick. So if we see like you know like Google for example has announced already for some time how college degrees are not necessarily required anymore. Again, there's still going to be jobs where if you have a college degree that yeah you may be still favored compared to somebody without a college degree. But the point I'm trying to make here is for those of you that feel like, well, I can't get a job, I can never work for Google, I can never work for Facebook or Apple or whatever if I don't have a college degree. That's not true, man. Like a lot of these companies, like they already started coming out and started speaking how that's not even a requirement anymore. Now, if you're somebody who wants to work for Google and wants you want to apply to one of these companies, what I will say is like you better get your ass in line. Like you better start learning your shit. Don't go just take some kind of boot camp course, never programming in your life. Take a boot camp in 3 months and then after that go apply to Google. Like hell no, don't. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I am saying is get the fundamentals down. Pick any language. I don't give a damn what language you pick. Pick something, right? Pick a language. You know, learn the fundamentals. Start building shit, man. So you can really get familiar. You know, know how things operate. Functions, classes, inheritance. What's in scope, what's out of scope. Then eventually, what happens that you start to grow and start to learn. You start learning all these other pieces that relate to programming, like version control, continuous integration, testing. Again, the list goes on. Documentation. Um, you a lot of that comes with time, but what I'm saying is that if you really, really want to, get your foot in the door, you really want to try to apply to some of these big tech companies, like nail all of that down, and it comes over time. It may take you 2 years or even 3 years, but again, work on it, nail it, get better at it, and and your chances will improve drastically. Like there's no doubt in my mind that you will have a real good chance to get it in if you do that. I really believe so, man. I really do. Um, but again, that's kind of what they're talking about. So like this other article talks about a company that hire programmers without a degree. Now we take a look at the list. Of course, we just talked about Google, but it's not just Google, man. Like a lot of these other companies, you could tell Apple, IBM, LinkedIn, Facebook. Again, I do feel that we've seen it already, and we're gonna see it even more, right? I know Tesla is not on here, but they're the same. They're in the same boat as well. Like they don't require college degrees; they require knowledge. I mean, that's you know, Eli has talked about that many times. Like, do you have the skills to do it? And if you do, hey, we want you. And if you don't, then that's why we don't want you. It's not because of your college degree necessarily. Now, I'm not gonna lie. Once you start dealing with um, self-driving cars and kind of going a little bit more advanced in that area, machine learning, AI, dealing with sensors and all that kind of stuff. I mean, that's kind of where, if depending on what degree you got in college and what you learn, um, it may be somewhat beneficial because you would have a lot of some of that stuff. Some of it you will learn again, depending on what college you went to. Right, you went to MIT, then that's probably a good school where you would have a lot of knowledge in that area. Um, but nevertheless, it's not impossible, man. That's what I'm trying to say. Even if it's like some kind of entry level job to get your foot in the door, and then as you get exposure throughout the years, then you can kind of move up as you start learning and growing as well. Um, but what I was gonna say was lot of these companies, even big companies, I feel where you're gonna have a hesitation to this change of you need a college degrees. It's gonna be your very archaic type companies. Um, I don't really want to name some of these companies, but the ones that are very not tech savvy, maybe like law firms, for example. And I'm talking about to be a lawyer that you should not have a college degree. That's not what I mean here. What I'm saying is more from the technical side. Like a good example would be a law firm. Well, law firm probably by default hires people with college degrees because, hey, if you're hiring a lawyer, you need a degree. That makes sense, right? I'm not trying to say that go become a lawyer without a degree. That's not the point here. But that law firm may have a technology that it needs to, whether it be some kind of app, some sort of web platform, etc. Depending on how they view things, if they're still running very archaic, they may see like, well, you need a college degree because they're so used to everybody having a college degree, and there may be a hesitation there when instead of in reality, what they should be asking is, do you have the skills to do the job? Like what? Let me look at your skills. Let me go look at your projects. Like what projects do you got out there? Do you have a URL that's actually showcasing your project? And that's the thing, awesome thing about being a programmer. When you're a programmer, you could show your work, man. Like build shit, publish it out there. Put it out there, and as you put it out there, now you could tell people, here's my URL. Go to it, play around with it, interact with it. At least that gives you a feel for the work that I'm able to do. Like you could actually do that, man. You can't really do that with some of these other industries, but you can when it comes to software development, which is what I love. You could go show off your work, and that's the I think some of these companies though, those are the ones that I think are not going to hesitate. They're not going to make the change as swiftly, but I think over time, as they start seeing other companies making the change, other companies saying, well, we don't care about college degrees. We care about, do you know how to do the job? Simple as that. Like, can you do the job? And if the answer is yes, and if you're able to either showcase or prove somehow that you can do it, then that's what they want. That's what I want. I mean, I have hired people for my company, and at the end of the day, I'm just looking. I could care less about your background, your race, your religion, your whatever. I don't like. I'm more concerned from a, can you do the job, dude? Like if you can, and you agree to the pay and all of that, like hey, you come on board, man. Like let's go. Like that's the way I view it, anyways. Um, but again, those are the companies that I feel that are gonna hesitate. They're not gonna make the change as swiftly. So you're still gonna have that time frame when it's gonna take companies a while, right? Before you still have some companies that are gonna require college degrees, and if you really want to work for that company, hey, I mean, if you want to work there that bad, then you're gonna need a college degree, if that's the case. But I will say your more popular tech companies, again, like your Google, Apple, again, Facebook, a lot of these guys, and there's a lot more besides these. These are just some, are not asking for college degrees. I mean, you don't have to have one, man. At the end of the day, especially if you got the skills. If you don't got the skills, then that's different. But what I'm talking about, if you actually have the skills, um, you have a legitimate chance of, you know, making it into these companies. So, I mean, again, hopefully any of y'all who are watching, anyways, I mean, that's just my main thing to y'all. Like, if you're learning, continue to learn, continue to grow, make opportunities you have to, man. If you work somewhere, wherever it is, like I don't know, like you could work for a big company. I know it's a little bit harder, but try to find an opportunity, right? Try to find a good example would be, let's say you work in the warehouse. Like, I'm using warehouse because I worked in the warehouse. Let's just say you work in a warehouse, all right, and you know that you are doing certain processes that, you know, you may come up with an idea like, man, you know what would be cool if we could, maybe make this more systemic, right? Like where I'm just gonna make up something, right? But let's say as we wrap a pallet, we end up staging it over here, but we don't ever move it systemically. You have a system to do it, but you don't ever move it systemically for different reasons. Like, so now what happens is whenever the truck comes, you're literally just kind of going to the big open bay area, right? You have the big open bay area that maybe holds 20 pallets total, and you have a pallet just kind of mixed in. You need to find the right one. That's where you kind of start thinking more from a process, like operational process. Like, all right, maybe we should make physical bins there. If we can't, because sometimes the pallets are different sizes, well, maybe we could do something more systemic where, we, have certain sections color coded. You know, this section is the blue section, or even numbered, right? This section is A. We have a bin 20, but we have this A section and this B section, and then figure out like, all right, well now we need to log that in systemically as well, to keep a track of it. Again, even if it's something that's more like your own, like you're not integrating it to the current system that's there, but something that you could kind of come up with an idea and implement yourself. At least what you're doing is you're proving the concept, right? You're creating something, an app, which you're gonna learn better by creating shit, and you're testing the concept. And then if it works, and if you feel like, dude, now we're not wasting time trying to find out, well, where's the pallet, which pallet do we need. Now like, hey, we need to go to this section right here, and then you have some kind of process where you're labeling it as well differently. Because now your mind thinking more logically of step by step, right, to the whole process. Hey, your business, the company you work for, they may see that, they may be impressed, and they may want to work with you to, hey, now let's get this integrated to our system, or how do we use our current system to do what you just did on your own to kind of manage inventory or manage the outbound inventory. Again, there's always ways, man, if you really, look at it. And even if there's not ways, just start learning, getting better. So when the opportunity does come up, you can take it and make the best of it, man. I mean, sometimes that's what you have to do. Sometimes you could apply 100 times and nobody will give you an opportunity. But all it takes is somebody to see your effort, and that effort may come from where the company you work at today. And if that's the case, find an opportunity, make the best of it, show them that you can do it, and they may do what they did to me, where I got moved to the IT department, and pretty much since then I've been doing, I've been a tech guy since then. So then now I got my own business. So that's all I have, guys, man. I do want to talk to y'all. Just kind of wanted to let y'all know that you can be a programmer without a college degree, and if you're striving to become a programmer, do it for the right reason. If you're strictly doing it for money, at the end of the day, you can, because again, money is the motivator by all means, and you can. But I think what would happen is a few things. Either A, you'll get burned out. B, you'll get discouraged a lot easier and then you'll quit. C, you get a job and you're excited and so on, because you got your first programming job. But then over time, you're going to start feeling like just like any other job, right? You're going to start going through the motions, not feeling as excited to get up to program, to whatever, because now you realize that, hey, you always wanted that programmer job because of the pay, not because of you enjoyed the process of programming. And I get it, man. We all have bills to pay. We all need money to do so. At least if you're gonna, better than working at some other job paying minimum wage that you don't even like working either. I mean, so it's like, all right, I don't like programming, but I get paid well. But I don't like delivering pizzas that doesn't pay well. So I'd rather do what does pay well. I get it, right? Sometimes we do it for that, but the point I'm trying to make is, man, life is short, man. Like I get it. Sometimes you need to do what you need to do, but if that's the case, do it. Get your financial self in order, but then find something, dude. Like find something that you really truly enjoy. Have some enjoyment in doing it and pursue that. Continue toward that path. Even if it's like a side project on the side, like do your normal job, then work towards that. If So that's kind of the reason why I'm telling you, like, hey, I wouldn't recommend doing it for the money, but I get it too, right? People got bills to pay. You need to do what you need to do, and if you do it, go ahead. But I would still recommend in the long term, figure out what you want to do, man, and pursue that. Um, those of you who are watching, if you got this far, hey, thanks for watching. Again, hit that like button, subscribe, and I'll be, let me know if there's any topics that y'all may want me to talk about. Peace.